Buyers and sellers want to work with the area expert, regardless of where you are, whether you're here in Ohio or anywhere across the country or the world. Buyers and sellers want to work with the expert. Today, I'm going to show you how to leverage data and show you my 10-year market study to demonstrate that you are the area expert. Hey everybody, Mike Ferrante here with LPT Realty and the Mike team. We're real estate agents serving Greater Cleveland, Northeast, and Central Ohio. So if you have a need here in the great state of Ohio, the only state with 75% of its letters are vowels, that's Ohio. Hit us up, go to 21mike.com, click that link at the top, and schedule an appointment with me or someone on the team. So, like I said in the opener here, this is going to be a great session both for agents and brokers because I'm going to show you how to be the area expert using data, and I'm going to show you a report that I did. So, if you're also just interested in what's happening in Northeast Ohio real estate, that'll be a byproduct of me sharing the report that I did. Now, quick spoiler alert, I threw the data into ChatGPT along with these images that you're going to see, and ChatGPT created the first draft of this report that I put together. I do this report every single year in January, summarizing the last 10 years. So I really am an expert in the data, but even as a new agent, I get this question, hey, Mike, I'm new. I've been in the business 1 year, 5 years. I've only had a couple sales. How can I how can I be the area expert? And the answer is simple. It's through data. If you know your numbers, if you know what's happening in your local market, and it can be as small or as large as you want, but I think you have an advantage if your market is smaller. So here we have a little city called Chagrin Falls. You could be the Chagrin Falls area expert by dominating the data and the distribution of that data in your market. And question I get, where do I get this data? It's simple, the MLS. And I'm going to actually show you how I do it. All right. So first off, let me just pull up my MLS here. And we're going to do a quick demonstration on, at least in the Northeast Ohio MLS, where you pull this data up. And if you're just listening along, I'll describe it in detail. So bottom line, agents, brokers, log in your MLS. I guarantee you have a way to pull up data. If you're unlucky like Mike Pillow down in Mount Vernon, Apple Valley area, and their MLS isn't as user-friendly, you have to hunt around for it. But I do know that he found it. And in ours, it's just called stats. There's a tab at the top called stats, and you pull this up and you're able to pull up a custom report. There are definitely preset ones that you can do. I like to pull up a custom report and I'll go back 10 years. So that's one of the options, going back 10 years. And then you can pull up your various stats and they know which ones you want. So let's just talk about number of listings because that has been the story in most markets is the inventory or lack thereof. So I'm going to pull up active number of listings. I like the smooth line format for my charts, and I'm going to group them by month. That's a nice way to group the data. Now, I'm also going to only let's do just residential properties, single families and condos. And so for my market study, I did all of Cuyahoga County. And so I'm going to put Cuyahoga County in there. But remember, guys, if you are a specialist, if you're in San Antonio, you could just do San Antonio if you wanted to. If you're in the Mount Vernon area, you could do Knox County. If you're up in South Euclid, like Ashoke, you could do South Euclid Lyndhurst and be a specialist in the South Euclid Lyndhurst school district. You could add in the Heights. You could be the Heights area expert and put together data that demonstrates how well you know what's going on. So what I'll do here is I plugged in all these criteria, very few. I'm saying all these like it's a lot, but honestly, sometimes it's the fewer criteria. Now, keep in mind, I'll pull graphs up for all of the different qualities of the market: sale price, number of sales, days on market, absorption rate, which is months of inventory. And I took all of these charts, just the charts, not even the CSV files. You could also upload CSV files in chat. But I took the charts and I gave them to chat and I said, hey, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. I wrote up a quick description. I didn't even use a custom GPT. I just told it what I wanted and it put together a first draft for me, like I said in the opener. Now, I spent another 45 minutes to an hour tweaking it. So it put together the report. I said, now give it to me in an editable format. And it gave me a PowerPoint presentation. And then I took the PowerPoint, tweaked it, and I'm going to show you the end result. Like my friend and teammate Ian Jones says, I'll pull the already baked cake out of the oven so you don't have to sit here and watch it baking. All right, so it took a minute there, but you can see that it spit out a nice chart of the inventory in Cuyahoga County. We have a lot of great Native American names up here in Northeast Ohio. And this is what inventory, active listings for residential properties look like over the last 10 years. If you're an agent or even a buyer or seller, you probably know this story already, that essentially we had 4 to 6,000 listings in a normal market, and now we're down to under 2,000, approaching 3,000, and that's the inventory shortage that we're in. And I'll show you what this looks like on my report in a second. There's a couple different ways you can digest this data. Here's the graph, and I just simply did all my reports. It took me minutes to put these together. I saved them all, and then I plugged these in ChatGPT. If you like a good spreadsheet, you can click over to the data tab, and then you can download a CSV file. There's an option here to download as a CSV file, export, I believe the option is called. So you can take this information and export it. Now, again, I use the charts because I wanted to have the graphics available to me. And again, do each and every stat. Now, I'm going to skip over here to ChatGPT for a second and just kind of show you where I did my 10-year market study. By the way, if you don't know, you can go into your ChatGPT, and if you want to try to find a a chat string that you were using, just search for it using this search bar. And so here's my string where I was doing the 10-year market study. And basically what I did is I had it write for me an email. Once I had the report generated, I said, now help me write an email because I'm going to send this out to my sphere. Up here is where I plugged in the graphs, and it changed it. It made a first draft, and then I changed it to an editable PowerPoint. I asked it for something editable in Canva. It said, I can't do that, but how about a PowerPoint? I said, sure. All right, so this is the how. This is the how. And guys, you can get really granular with your data, and it can be customized. So now I'm going to show you the cake that is already baked. I plugged all this in. I gave it pictures. I gave it logos. And I said, make me a report. And so here is what it came up with. And agents, brokers, anywhere, feel free to rip this off. Use pictures of your own city, though. Don't do Cleveland. But ChatGPT threw all this together, and it said, okay, Mike, here's your logo. Here's another logo. It used the picture that I gave it. It made me, I gave it QR codes, and I told it what I wanted it to be titled. And again, I had to tweak and edit a few things here and there. It has my byline here. I included realtor and fair housing logos. I simply gave it the logos and said, here, go ahead and use these logos strategically throughout the report. I had it make an about page. So here's where you can do a little bit of marketing of yourself. I have a QR code with a link directly to my calendar here. If you're putting together this wonderful information, people are going to want to talk to you about it. And also email this out to your database. Email it to people who might be likely to send it out to their sphere. So, for example, your accountants, your financial advisors, your attorneys, insurance agents, people who have big books of business, and people who are interested in numbers and data. Send it to them. It's a value add they can give to their clients, and they're promoting you. They're saying, hey, my real estate broker, my real estate agent gave me this invaluable data, and they'll share it with their people. And they look like a rock star because they're giving out very valuable local data. All right, so mine put together this about the team section. We also, I gave it information on our reviews. It created this. ChatGPT created this whole format here. Again, I tweaked a little bit. I gave it this graphic. It talks about our reviews on various platforms. So it created an about the team page for me. Then this is the really cool thing. ChatGPT created these pages. And I told it I wanted it to be consolidated. My original report, I want to be honest with you, 29 pages. I thought, well, the graphs need to be huge. And I don't know. I came up with a 29-page report and I hated it. I've been doing the same format every year, and it takes me about 4 hours to put together that report. And I did it again this year. I spent 4 hours putting together the report. And then I said, let me try chat. And it did it in minutes. It took me about 15 minutes to create the first draft and then another 45 to edit it. So in an hour, it put together a way better report than I could ever create. By the way, notice the logos on each page. And then it took the first three graphs and it kind of compiled them into one page here, and it wrote a summary, just kind of key takeaways. People don't want giant blocks of text, right? So here's that inventory graph. Also on this page, it put two other graphs, months of inventory. Okay, this is absorption rate. So those of you who don't know what that is, that's how many months it would take for all of the inventory to sell, to be gone, if no new listings hit the market. And of course, here in Northeast Ohio, like I said, our inventory is down, and overall, the absorption rate or months of inventory is way down. A balanced market is 4 to 6 months. Over 6 months is a buyer's market where there's more inventory than there are buyers. And under 4 months is considered to be a seller's market. And you can see we've been 1 to 3 months of inventory for the last 5 years. So we've been in a seller's market for the last 5 years. You can see those numbers have bounced up a little bit. So it's no longer what we call a super seller's market here in Northeast Ohio, but it's still a seller's market. And then the last graph here is days to sell. So when I put out my report, I still talk about seasonality. These peaks, days to sell rises into the 30s and 40s in the winter months, and then it dips in spring and summer and early fall. But overall, you can see from our numbers that it's a seller's market, again, indicated by the low number of days to sell. And again, I have various calls to action throughout my report. Uh, going to our website, scheduling an appointment with me through my calendar link. Okay, then it made another page here of the remaining two graphs that I gave it, which is the close price. This is values over time. And then this is the number of sales. So again, quick update on Northeast Ohio. Slow and steady wins the race here in Northeast Ohio. We don't have a lot of volatility in pricing. We have slow increases. We used to be in the 2 to 4% appreciation rate. And then during the peak years around COVID, we had some bigger increases in certain areas. Again, this graph shows some seasonality, dips in value in the winter and increases in the summer months, the warmer months, but overall trending upwards. Okay, now what's not shown on this graph are the losses that we had 08 to 2012. I don't do a 20-year market study, but since the crash, we have trended upwards. And then number of sales. This one tells a story here because you can see these last 3 years, the number of sales has dropped compared to previous years. I love the 10-year timeline because it gives you enough to kind of understand what has happened in the last decade, but not so much that it's overwhelming. I see graphs that say, well, here's the last 80 years in this market. Could be interesting to look at in a certain context, but your local people, for your local expertise, they want recent data. They want to understand what's happening to them now. And again, chat put together a real nice summary for me, which, I kind of explained to you. Now, for my report, I also did luxury homes. And in our market, yes, 600,000 and up is luxury. In some places, 600,000 barely gets you a one-bedroom condo. But yeah, here in Ohio, you can get some land, you can get a really nice updated house for 600,000 and up. And I put together the same sort of data, the days to sell, the months of inventory. And again, you can see it parallels the single family and condo market. This is active listings. So, the listings is a little bit skewed because as prices rise, more and more homes qualify to be luxury. And then here's the number of sales. And again, the number of sales becomes a little more volatile over time because as prices rise, there's more and more homes in that 600,000 and up category. So what I focus on here in my summary is talking about how luxury is following a similar pattern. Days to sell has dropped, months of inventory has dropped. So still a seller's market in the luxury segment. Then I do multifamily, 2 to 4 units. And, similar story here, although the active listings have recovered better in 2 to 4 family. And of course, I attribute this to interest rates rising. We had a lot of cash buyers earlier in the decade. Because rates have risen, that has curbed the demand for investment properties because it's harder to underwrite those properties with rates in the sevens or maybe eights or even higher. If they're using hard money, it's harder for investors to make the numbers work. And so I'm seeing an increase in multifamily, but overall values still keep rising and months of inventory is relatively low. So still a seller's market, but multifamily is a little more balanced. And then of course I did the last two graphs, days to sell median and then number of sales. And these tell a very similar story. And again, guys, ChatGPT threw this together for me. I just spent about 45 minutes tweaking it. I wrote the majority of my forecast because I didn't love what it gave to me as a forecast. I compiled a little bit more data. I did some reading. And so I added to the forecast, which I think is really a valuable thing to be able to talk about and to be able to support. Instead of just saying, well, I think this is going to happen, you can say based on data, based on the recent past, and based on what I've been reading about the Fed not lowering rates, about, where's inventory going to come from? There's not going to be a big boom in inventory all of a sudden unless somehow they're able to create new construction inventory in your market. But to be able to put together a forecast and a conclusion that actually makes sense, that gives value to clients. And again, I have a final call to action with some logos. Again, I threw this all in chat and said, make me something pretty, and it did. So guys, feel free to rip off and duplicate this, create your own market study, do a 10-year, do a 20-year, whatever you want, but you have access to all the data that you need right in your MLS. So I encourage you to put together something, show yourself as the area expert, take that content and repurpose it. So I created a report. This was an 8-page report. I also turned that into a blog. I have an assistant who turns it into a blog. I'm doing videos like this. I created a 15-minute YouTube video that I also emailed out to my sphere. So the copy of the report is there along with the video for people who'd rather watch me talk. And I also took and I'm making shorts out of that video to create short form content that goes on Facebook Reels. It goes on YouTube Shorts, goes on Instagram. We post that to LinkedIn. We take the audio and put it in a podcast. So you can create one form of content that goes in multiple places. Your Google business page. Okay, this goes as an update on the Google business page, and you can link back to your content. If you have a website, which most of you do, you can turn this into a piece of data on your website, a clickable link that takes them to the report. And again, this all builds up your SEO. So Google determines, hey, you're putting out valuable content, and it starts to say, hey, you have valuable content that people are interested in these certain areas, and that boosts you in the results, both for Google searches, SEO, search engine optimization, and we can't forget about GEO, generative engine optimization. Someone goes into ChatGPT and says, hey, who's the area expert in Howard, Ohio, where Apple Valley Lake is, or in Columbus or San Antonio? The more content you're putting out there, and not just garbage, the more valuable content you're putting out there, these engines recognize it, and you'll start appearing more and more in the results. So that's what I have for you today, guys. I'm going to wrap this up here, but just remind you, if you want to schedule something with me, go to 21mike.com. I'll stay for a minute afterwards to hear your comments, and I'm kind of curious how you guys are using AI, and if you've put together a report like this. I know Mike Pillow has, and I see he's going to be presenting his coming up here real soon. So looking forward to seeing that. All right, guys, take care. And if you need me, hit me up, or as the kids say, HMU.